The Speed Reading Book by Tony Buzan. Division 2: Your Amazing Eyes. Gaining control of your eye movements to increase your speed and comprehension. Preview: How do your eyes really read? The Speed Reader, Perception Exercise 1. Self-Test 2, Summary, High IQ Action Points. In this chapter, we discover some extraordinary facts about your eyes, investigate how your eyes really move when they read, and introduce you to 5 new ways to instantly increase your reading speed and comprehension. Each of your eyes is the most amazing optical instrument known to man, dwarfing by comparison even the most advanced microcosmos and microcosmos searching telescopes and microscopes. The nature of this miraculous instrument can be understood, and being understood can be controlled and used to your extraordinary advantage. Each of your eyes contains 130 million light receivers. Each light receiver can take in at least 5 photons, bundles of light energy per second. Brain bites. Variations in pupil size. We have known for some time that our pupils adjust their size according to light intensity and the nearness of the object. The brighter the light and the nearer the object, the smaller the pupil size. Western scientists have recently discovered that pupil size also varies with emotion, and that if you are confronted with a sight that especially interests you, like an attractive member of the opposite sex, your pupil size automatically increases. Such changes are small but can be noticed with careful observation. Jade dealers in China have been aware of this for many years while presenting objects for the customer's inspection. The dealer pays particularly close attention to the customer's eyes, waiting for an increase in pupil size. When this increase has been observed, the dealer knows that the customer is hooked and sets an appropriate price. As a speed reader, if you are interested in something, your pupil dilates, letting more light in. In other words, the more interested you are, the wider your brain draws the curtains behind your eyes, allowing itself and you to receive with no extra effort more data per second. Eyes at the back of your head. The phenomenally complex images decoded by your retinal light receivers are sent along the optic nerve, see plate 1, and transmitted to the visual area of your brain, the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is paradoxically not situated just behind the eyes but at the back of your head. No wonder we describe very observant people as having eyes at the backs of their heads. It is occipital lobe of the brain that actually does the reading, directing your eyes around your page to hunt for information that is of interest to your brain. This knowledge forms the basis of the revolutionary approach to speed reading that will unfold in the next few chapters. Knowing these amazing new facts about the eyes, it becomes clear that traditional reading habits and reading speeds must be a product of mistraining and misuse, and that if our eyes were understood and trained properly, their functions would significantly improve. How do your eyes really read? The answer is that the eyes make small and fairly regular jumps. These take the eye from fixation point to fixation point, usually a bit more than a word at a time. So to sum up, the eye does not move smoothly over the pages at all. Instead, it moves in small hops from left to right, pausing for a moment to take in a word or two before moving on and repeating the process. See Figure 4a, page 46. While the eye is moving and pausing in this way, the information is absorbed only during the pauses. These pauses take up most of the time, and as each pause may last between a quarter and 1.5 seconds, it is possible to make an immediate improvement in your reading speed by spending less time on each pause. Figure 4b, page 46 shows the eye movements of a very poor reader. This reader makes about twice as many pauses or fixations, as they are commonly called, as are required for good comprehension. Extra pauses are caused because the slow reader often rereads words, sometimes skipping back as many as 3 places to make sure that the correct meaning has been taken in. These habits of back skipping, returning almost as a habit to words that have just been read, and regression, returning consciously to words which the reader feels have been missed or misunderstood, cause the poor reader's excessive number of fixations. Research has shown that in 80% of cases, when readers were not allowed to back skip or regress, they discovered that their eye had actually taken in the information and they absorbed it as they read the next few phrases. The speed reader very rarely indulges in these unnecessary repetitions, which dramatically reduce the slow reader's speed. If each back skip or regression takes roughly a second and as little as 2 are made per line, Then on an average page of 40 lines, 1 minute and 20 seconds are wasted. On a normal book of 300 pages, 1 minute 20 seconds times 300 pages, 400 minutes, 2/3 hours of extra wasted time spent reading and not comprehending. Brain bites. Your eyes distinguish between over 10 million different colors. The speed reader. Figure 4c, page 46 shows that the good or speed reader, while not back skipping or regressing, also has longer jumps. The good reader also takes it in not one word per fixation, but 3 or 4 or 5. If we assume for the moment that each fixation takes the same time and set that time at an average of half a second per fixation, an interesting picture emerges. On a normal line of 12 words per line, the poor reader fixating on one word per fixation and back skipping or regressing twice will take half plus 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 half equals 7 seconds. Whereas the speed reader taking in 3 and 4 words per fixation with no back skipping or regression takes half plus half plus half plus half equals 2 seconds. The speed reader, with a minor adjustment in the mechanics of the eye, has outread and outsped the slow reader by 350%. Comprehension. But wait, you say I have always been told that for good comprehension I must read slowly and carefully. Surely increasing my speed will decrease my comprehension. This assumption sounds logical, yet a little investigation shows it to be completely false. Research is increasingly showing that the faster you read, the better your comprehension. To check this for yourself, read the following statement exactly as it is laid out, taking it in slowly and carefully and going for maximum comprehension. Speed reading has been found to be better for understanding than slow reading. Difficult? Of course, because your brain is not designed to read at such a disastrously slow pace. Reading slowly and carefully encourages the brain to read more and more slowly with less and less comprehension, more and more agony. Now look at the next sentence, this time reading the words as they are grouped. It has been discovered that the human brain, with the help of its eyes, takes the information far more easily when the information is conveniently grouped in meaningful bundles. Your brain works far more comfortably at speeds of 400 words per minute and above. It is interesting to note that when most people estimate pictures, diagram of a good reader's eye movements, diagram of a poor reader's eye movements. That makes sense. 4a, diagram of the eye's basic progression while reading. Their reading speed and speed at which they move their finger is in fact 400 words per minute or more. An increase in speed therefore automatically leads to an increase in comprehension. This is because the information is organized in meaningful chunks that make the immediate sense to your brain. This increased ability to understand in turns helps you to remember better, because memory is also based on your brain's ability to organize information in meaningful chunks. Your first task then is to work at eliminating the bad habits of back skipping, regression, and taking in too few words per fixation. In addition to getting rid of these bad habits, there is a fourth major way of increasing your speed. If your normal fixation time is 1 second per fixation, and you can increase your speed to half a second per fixation, which should be easy, remembering that your eye can take in information at 1/500th of a second, then you will have doubled your reading speed. Brain bites. Acting in harmony, your super light receivers can decode in less than a second a scene containing 2 billions of pieces of information with super photographic accuracy. Perception example exercise 1. The exercise that follows is designed to help you make quicker fixations and take in more information per visual gulp. This should give you the confidence and increased motivation you need to eliminate back skipping and regression. It will also encourage you to take in more at a glance as you read. The exercise has been designed for those who favor either the left or the right hand. Use a card to cover up the numbers. Expose each number as briefly as possible, giving yourself no more than a split second to see it. Almost at the same time as it is uncovered, it should be recovered. Then write in the space next to the number what you think the number is and check to see whether you were right or wrong. Continue to the next number, moving from column to column, repeating the process until the page has been completed. You will find that the exercise becomes more challenging as you progress, because the number of digits is gradually increasing. If you can reach the end of the 6-digit numbers with few mistakes, you will have done extremely well. You will find that with practice, you will be able to complete the 6-digit numbers in one flash, and this will give you increased confidence to take in 2 or more words at a time as you read. The numbers that follow include just enough examples of each digit grouping, allows your brain to get accustomed to that level before moving on to the next. It starts off as 2 digits from 26, then eventually 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the end 6 digits. Now, move on to self-test to art. Apply all you have learned in this chapter, eliminating backskipping and regression. Fixating for shorter periods of time and taking in larger groups words or per fixation. Make sure you start your timer as you commence your reading and stop it the instant you have completed the reading. The plus one rule. The plus one rule is simply the following. Wherever you are consciously attempting to read faster, aim to read at least one word per minute faster than your previous highest speed. In this way, you will not put unnecessary stress on yourself, and you will often find that you have increased by 10 or more words per minute, thus comfortably beating your goal, which leads to increasing confidence as well as faster and more efficient reading. During the self-test that follows and each of the subsequent self-tests, give yourself a plus 10 rule in which your goal is to increase by 10 words per minute. Self-test to art, primitive to Christian. Introduction. Art is one of the most profound expressions of the human brain. From the beginning of history, the mind behind the hand behind the bush was engaged in one of the most sophisticated and intricate forms of analysis and expression imaginable. The following sections cover what I believe to be some of the most exciting periods in the history of art. Primitive art. All the arts have their organs in prehistoric times, but the representations of animals are incised on ivory and bone and drawn and painted on the walls and ceilings of caves in the north of Spain and south of France still excite wonder by their exceptional power and apparent modernity. Many masterpieces were produced between roughly 40,000 BC and 10,000 BC. What we notice in the photographs or outline copies made from them is the way in which the artists have selected and emphasized the main characteristics of animals: mammoth and bison, deer, wild boar, and wild horse. The knowledge they display of their anatomy and the skill with which they convey the solid bulk and vigorous movements of the animals, using no more than a little black and red ochre. There are comparable paintings and drawings by people living a similar life as at a much later date. Thus, the African Bushmen have left in rock shelters drawings of animals as beautiful as those of our first European artists, and resembling them in style, though some were done as recently as the 19th century. In the next stage of civilization, hunting becomes less important and social life takes a more definite form. Tools of stone and bronze are perfected. The crafts of pottery and weaving are pursued, and with the growth of agriculture, various rites and ceremonies propitiating the elements comes into being. The typical primitive society, of which there still remain a few examples, as in Polynesia, and is largely concerned in the arts with its rudimentary religion. Carving and sculpture exceed paint in importance. The idol in 3 dimensions is thought to represent more impressively the powers that seem to affect primitive life. Painting and drawing became a series of signs and symbols. The ancient Mediterranean world. Painting and drawing in the ancient Mediterranean world has 3 aspects. First, there is wall painting with its bold outlines and flat color, the technique somewhat resembling that of certain modern posters. The ancient Egyptians used it on the exteriors of their temples, a sharply defined low relief providing an outline which was filled with bright color. The majority of surviving Egyptian paintings are those found on tomb walls, including scenes from the life of the deceased. A number of artistic conventions are regularly used. For example, the male figure is painted in red ochre, the female in yellow, and the head and legs are always in profile. However, the rest of the body is turned. A great quality is the lively observation of the artists when painting scenes of banqueting and dancing or fishing and fowling along the Nile. The wall paintings of the Minoans and ancient Crete, discovered in the palace of Knossos, can be likened to those of Egypt with their bright flat colors and decided outlines, though they are entirely secular in character. The painted pottery of ancient Greece offers on a small scale other examples of these artistic traditions. The male figure is dark, the female figure light, and outline plays a major part. The Greek vase painters, who often signed their cups and vases, can be studied as brilliant draughtsmen with a most exquisite sense of the value of line and silhouette. In the classical period, however, the art of vase painting ceased to occupy an important place, and it is now that we first come upon the record of pictures in the modern sense, though our idea of them is unfortunately not based on the authentic works of the legendary masters Zeuxis and Apelles, but on topics of Greek paintings discovered when the Roman cities Pompeii and Herculaneum were excavated. It is clear, however, that the Greek painters had given their art a scope and character undreamed of by the Egyptians and Minoans. Their works was no longer flat but represented light and shade. The Greeks conceived dramatic compositions. They interested themselves in the problem of giving individual character and expression to their figures. in features and gesture. The Greco-Roman works that adorned the villas of wealthy Romans in the 1st century AD provide examples of landscape previously unknown and of still life studied for its own sake. They were the precursors of the later development of painting in Italy. Brain bites. The Kearney Laboratory in Switzerland has estimated that it would cost $68 million to build a machine that would duplicate the incredible sophistication of your eyes. Byzantine art. The dissolution of the Roman Empire, the establishment of a new Rome in the former Byzantium, Constantinople, and the emergence of Christianity as the universal creed of the West gave painting a new character, spirit, and aim. The Christian religion became the artist's theme, a formal style now known as Byzantine, suited to express its earnestness and ritual, grew up Constantinople and many links with the East, whose influence is to be seen in the use of rich color and geometric patterns. The main triumphs of Byzantine pictorial art were achieved in mosaic used to decorate the walls or the inner domes of Byzantine churches. Its other forms were firstly the icon, the image of Christ or the Virgin represented in a fixed convention which in itself declared the unalterable nature of belief, and secondly the illumination of manuscript gospels and liturgical works with paintings and gold leaf. The style of these is as unchanging as that of the icon. The Byzantine capital remained intact, prosperous, and fixed in its ways for 1100 years after its foundation in the 4th century AD. So that works very similar in many respects may vary considerably in date. In sphere of Byzantine art corresponds to the sphere of influence of the Byzantine Empire, the eastern shores of the Mediterranean, Greece, and the Greek islands. To some extent, it was carried westward with the movements of Byzantine missionaries and craftsmen. The style of the famous 8th century Irish manuscript, the Book of Kells, has links with those of the eastern Mediterranean. The Italian cities of Florence, Siena, and Pisa had a Byzantine tradition, the end of which is marked by the paintings of Cimabue in Florence and Duxo in Syria in the 13th century. In Eastern Europe, what is now Croatia, has remarkable Byzantine wall paintings of the 12th to 14th centuries. Greek painters introduced the icon into Russia, and the Russian artist Andrew Rublev c. 1360 to 1430 brought the style into a magnificent pitch of development. Crete remained a center until the 16th century, and there is still a trace of the Byzantine tradition in the paintings of El Greco, 1541 to 1614. Early Christian art in the West. East or West, early Christian art generally avoided the realistic depiction of the human form, which had been a feature of classical art. Yet it was not necessarily crude and imperfect, but more spiritual and abstract in the sense of being removed from mundane affairs. And from this point of view, it is nowadays judged more favorably than it used to be. Early Christian art in the West has a complex history. It began by following the Greco-Roman tradition, as in the paintings found in the Roman catacombs. It was then modified by the local character of the various regions into which the Roman Empire was divided. It was affected by its links, religious and commercial, with the Eastern Empire. For a long time, the monastic art of the illuminated manuscripts was the main form of pictorial art, as in Celtic and Anglo-Saxon Britain and in the empire of Charlemagne. Those two things gradually became clear. Christianity was the one unifying and educational force in Europe, and pictures were the principal means of conveying its message effectively and universally among people who spoke in different tongues or who were unable to read and write. With the great period of church building, which began in the 11th century, the international Western style known as Romanesque developed. Its greatest products were the wall paintings in churches working on a large area. The painters developed a bold and simple style of much grandeur. Modern art and beyond. The French artist Cézanne, known as the father of modern art, took art one step further. He was primarily interested not in what he saw, but how he saw. He therefore began exploring the way in which light bounces off an object and is received by the human eye brain. He would look at objects and paint on his canvas only the small planes of light in color that he saw, gradually and building the picture up, very much like a jigsaw puzzle, until the real image emerged. From Cézanne's work, the entire school of Cubism emerged, in which artists not only painted the planes of light, they also painted into the image what they remembered from different perspectives. Thus, a human form in the mind of the artist could become a composite of that form seen from all angles. In this way, their paintings became images from the mind rather than simply images from reality. Artists such as Vasily Kandinsky and Lorraine Gill have researched even more deeply how and what we see by examining the relationship between color and color, line and line, and line and color. In the 21st century, we are likely to see the development of new theories in art that link it far more closely with mathematics, physics, and all other sciences. Stop your timer now. Length of time, minutes. Mine was sadly 15 minutes. Brain bites. The Cerny laboratory also rightly points out that the mechanical eye would be relatively immobile and nearly the size of a house. Not sure how much minutes I've done. Next, calculate the reading speed in words per minute by simply dividing the number of words in the passage. In this case, 1570 by the time in minutes you took. Speed reading formula, words per minute. Okay, number of words, 1570. Let's say 10 minutes. So, yeah, in a way I've done maybe 157 words per minute. When you have completed your calculation, enter the number in the words per minute slot at the end of this paragraph and enter it on your progress graph in your progress chart on pages 216 to 17. Done. Self-test 2, comprehension. All the arts have their origins in Africa, prehistoric times, the early from Iron Age, the Nile Delta. The Nile Delta, I think. Prehistoric times. Prehistoric times, yeah. As far as we currently know, the first artistic masterpieces were produced between 100,000 50,000 BC, 50,000 40,000 BC, 40,000 and 10,000 BC, 10,000 5,000 BC. The African Bushmen, unlike the cavemen, did not concern themselves so much with animals. True or false? Not sure. A typical primitive society is largely concerned as art with painting, hunting, religion, and war. Hunting. Yeah. Ancient Mediterranean wall painting is distinguished by fine outlines and brilliant colors, fine outlines, flat colors, bold outlines, brilliant colors, bold outlines, flat colors. I think number A, I think. In Egyptian paintings on tomb walls, the female figure is normally painted in red ochre, yellow, brown, and red. I think red ochre. Our first record of pictures in the modern sense is based on the authentic works of Zeuxis and Apelles. Yes. The great Greek vase painters, the copes of Greek paintings found in Roman cities of Populi and Herculean, and the Italian Renaissance. I think number A. Number 8. The first examples of landscape were found when excavating Greek cities, in the Egyptian tombs, in the villas of wealthy Romans, in the work of the Minoans. Not sure. In Byzantine art, Christianity was the artist's main theme. Maybe. True, maybe. The main triumphs of Byzantine pictorial arts were achieved in mosaic, vases, carpets, depictions of the triumphs of the Byzantine Empire. The icon was a fixed convention in Byzantine art. True or false? Not sure. The Byzantine school of art lasted approximately 110 years, 500 years, 1000 years, 1100 years. Not sure. Early Christian art copied classical art, avoided the realistic depiction of the human form, enhanced the representation of the human form, was not interested in the human form. Not sure. I really need to study. The father of modern art was Duccio, El Greco, Cézanne, Picasso. Cézanne. Yeah. Check your answers again against the page 14. The divide score 14 multiply 100 to calculate percentage comprehension. How much I got out of 14? I am not sure, but less than 7 most likely. So less than 50%. I need to improve. Now enter your score on your progress graph in your progress chart on page 216 and 17. Summary. Your eyes read in stops or fixations which take between a quarter and 1.5 seconds. 2. The slow reader takes in an average of 1 word per fixation. 3. The average speed reader takes in 3 or 5 words per fixation. 4. Backskipping and regression are unnecessary. 5. Reading slowly and carefully hinders comprehension. Reading faster and in meaningful chunks improves comprehension. High IQ action points. Reduce your backskipping and regression, move forward only. Shorten the length of time for each fixation. Take in words in large, meaningful chunks. Stay focused. Increase your motivation. At some time in the near future, repeat perception exercise 1. Quickly preview chapter 5. Onward. Having completed the first major chapter on improving the mechanics of your eyes, it is clear that huge increases can be made in your reading speed. This is the first of 4 such chapters that will enable you to make similarly dramatic improvements. Before moving on, it is essential to create a reading environment that encourages excellence and success. This is the subject of the next chapter. End.